Now, let's talk a little bit about airlines. Is there a favorite airline? You've been to many countries. Is there, over time, have you fell in love with a airline or an airport? Your favorite airline or airport?
I would definitely say Emirates is luxury, child.
Really?
Emirates luxury. Oh, it's luxury. Ooh. Especially, I find that, especially when you do longer flights, this is what I realized. Doing longer flights, you get better planes because the planes have to be bigger, I guess.
Okay.
So usually, I remember one time I went on this double-decker plane. Like, it had stairs inside.
Yes.
I was like, what's happening? You know? And of course, I was a student back then, so the first class and I really wasn't, I wasn't within. I wasn't there yet.
Yes. Good night, everyone, and welcome to another powerful episode of Travel Talk, where we amplify real stories of international travelers from the Bahamas and around the world. I'm your host, Deandra Dean, educator, author, and global storyteller. And tonight, we're about to experience something special. Travel Talk was born out of my own journey, not just as a woman who loves to travel, but as a woman who wanted to expand what travel looked like for people like me. When I wrote my travel book, Passport to More, a Bahamian travel guide to exploring the world beyond the familiar, it wasn't about just flights and destinations. It was about shifting mindsets. It was a message to every person, every Bahamian, that the world isn't just available to others, but it was available to us too. You don't have to be rich, famous, or sponsored to explore globally. You just need the right information, inspiration, and intention. And just like our guest tonight, Princia Chiripanyanga, my story didn't begin with luxury or ease. It began with something of disruption. There was a point where my husband was denied a US visa, and it forced us to ask, what else is out there? That's when we started exploring other countries. And that decision changed my life forever. In fact, tonight's episode is extra special because tonight is extra special because, like Princia, China was the place that marked my first big leap into international travel. It was my first major global trip, and it completely expanded my worldview. So when I say this conversation is close to my heart, I mean that. Quincy and I share more than a love for travel. We share a connection to the country that changed us. So tonight, whether you are tuning in from Nassau, China, Africa, Toronto, or the beautiful Bahamas, I would like to welcome you. I want us to take a little time to acknowledge our guests that are in the chat. So if you could drop your name, your country, and that one travel item that you never leave home without, I want you to share that in the chat for us, please. So I'll start first. I can't type in the chat because you guys know my story. My laptop crashed, and so I'm doing my best to do this impromptu, guys. So I'm here, we're here, God is good. So my favorite travel, my name is Deandra Dean. I'm from the Bahamas. And my favorite thing to pack in my travel bag would be my travel journal. Barry, could you share what's happening in the chat? What are our guests saying? Where are they, their names, where they're from, and what's in their travel bag?
Good afternoon, everyone. And here we have Antika from Europe. We also have Lashante. I never leave home without disinfected wipes and hand sanitizer. And we also have Tria, I pronounced the name correctly. She's also from the Bahamas, and she does not leave home without her charger. I'm with you, girl.
Yes, definitely not without that charger. Okay, I could see some of them as well as they're coming in. Who else do we have there, Barry? I see Shakira Gilbert is on.
We also have Carrie from Freeport, Bahamas.
Bahamas in
And
the
we
house.
also have here, yes, Freeport, welcome. We also have Joycelyn. She's from the Bahamas and she does not leave home without a hand sanitizer.
Okay.
Then we have Mrs. Gilbert from the Bahamas. She does not leave home without her camera. And did I miss anyone?
I'm with you on that.
Oh, I love this one. Stephanie Knowles without cash. With you, girl.
Most definitely. Cash and card as well.
And Mrs. Nakia Pinder from the Bahamas. I never leave home without my selfie stick. Oh, I love these answers.
Yes, I love them as well. All essentials. And then there's something that I've learned in recent travels that no matter, especially when you're going to Europe and even some parts of Asia, you know, the little small towels that we bathe with, it's that's always in my bag as well, because sometimes they have the long ones, or believe it or not, none at all. And so that is also in my travel bag for sure. Thank you so much for those answers, guys, and welcome all of you from all parts of the world. I heard, where did we have in there, Barry? We had in Andika in Europe. They're actually vacationing in Europe now. They're on a European cruise. So we thank you so much for coming to Travel Talk, even on the Mediterranean Sea. Look at that. Travel Talk is global, you guys. And then we had Freeport in the house. I'm also at
Freeport, the Nassau, Bahamas, Europe is in the house as well.
Canada is in. Dr. Lashante said that Canada is also in the house. And then we're expecting more guests.
Canada.
Yes, as time progresses. But we want to jump right into our show because tonight is very, very exciting. It's been one of the most anticipated shows. I guess that's why God had it so where the slides are not ready, because we have a full segment tonight with Princia Chiripanyanga, and we're so happy to have her on. So now let's get into tonight's episode. With the mandate of spreading light and positive energy, Princia hails from Nassau, the Bahamas, and has always carried with her a deep zest for life and adventure. But like many of us, the idea of leaving home, the only place she'd ever known, felt both thrilling and terrifying. After working in Nassau for a year, the call to grow louder than fear. So she answered it with courage. Her very first solo journey took her across the world to China, where she pursued her master's degree in international trade at Shanghai University, the only Bahamian in her program. It was there, in a multicultural world of languages, culture, and possibility, that she discovered what life could look like when you choose freedom over familiarity. And with China as a launch pad, she began to explore the world with beautiful adventures across Dubai, Vietnam, the Philippines, Barcelona, Amsterdam, Paris, Malaysia, Canada, Thailand, Indonesia, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. Her journey has been anything but conventional, from being locked out of China during the pandemic to finding love across borders and navigating a beautifully layered intercultural marriage. Princia has lived with openness, intention, and boldness every step of her way. And tonight, she's here to share her light, her truth, and her legacy with all of us. Please help me welcome our featured guest for tonight's episode of Travel Talk, Black, Bahamian, and bold in China, Princia Chiripanyanga. Welcome to the show, and I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you. Deandra. Thank you. And an awesome effort. A for effort for Chiripanyanga. A for effort.
A bit. Are you still? Can you hear me? Because we couldn't hear you just now. Yeah.
Oh, you can hear me
I
now?
hear you now. I can definitely hear you
Okay.
now. Awesome.
Okay, perfect.
All right. So now the first thing to do is the first thing on Travel Talk I like to ask. I want to know your passport story. So let's start from the top. As Bahamians, most of us, our travels start with going to Florida. You know, you're not a true Bahamian if you don't go to the neighbors very often. So what we want to know is you moved halfway across the world to build a life in China. So tell us what inspired you to leave Nassau and to take that leap of faith. What does your passport story look like?
Okay. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon. Good
What time is it there in China, by the way?
It's 7:14 in the morning.
7 in the morning, okay.
Yeah. So first of all, thank you so much, Deandra, for inviting me on this platform to just provide a great space to share my story. I really appreciate it. Also, living abroad and connecting with especially Black women has always been a passion of mine. So, and thanks to all of the guests who have taken out the time to hear my little stories.
Appreciate
it all. But just like everyone else, our family, we frequently visited the States. However, my first time traveling by myself was to China. And the decision was birthed from simply not enjoying my job. And so I was from one extreme to the next. And literally one of my old classmates, he told me that he studied in China. So being the very eccentric person that I am, I was like, let me try. And so I applied for the scholarship. And that's how I came to China, because it was free and because I didn't really like my job. So I said, let me try something new.
Oh, that is awesome. And so your first,
I just went for it. It was like, oh, you did that. Okay, I just want to change. And I remember always praying. I'm like, God, I want to see the world,
okay.
but I may not make it to China, but I want to see the world. I will always remember that prayer. And I just decided to go for it, literally.
Prayerful about it and just went. I love it. And so what did that process look like? What does it look like when you pack up your life and head over to China? What was that process like?
So for me, it was scary. Like I said, I don't think I really, honestly, my story isn't very deep on how I got here.
Okay.
It was scary, it was daunting, because like I mentioned, I did the scholarship route, and I really only wanted to go to China for 1 year. However, apparently I did well in the interview, so they gave me a longer scholarship. So
Okay.
I actually almost didn't take it. I almost turned it down because it was 3 years, and that felt too long for me.
Okay.
And with the pushing of my village, they were like, you can't give up a scholarship opportunity. That don't even make sense. So I ended up just taking it. So leaving was, of course, scary. My first time traveling by myself, leaving home, I went to COB. So I wasn't used to, living abroad. So it was very, very scary. And the flight, I remember it was again in 2015, and it was about, I want to say 27 to 30 hours, because they got us those cheaper tickets. So I had like long layovers in LA, and then boom, the 14, I call it the 14-hour boy, like the 14-hour flight where, it's just long. So that was, oof. It was, and I didn't even like planes. I didn't like flying. I was scared.
So Princia, so the school that you went to, they paid for your flights and everything like that.
So I went on the CSC scholarship, the Chinese government scholarship, in collaboration with the Ministry of Education.
Okay.
I was awarded that scholarship. However, I took so long to make a decision, so I kind of missed the window. So they usually pay for your flights to go to China and then to return after you graduate.
Okay.
And so in between, if you want to go home, you usually pay for it yourself.
Okay.
So I had to pay for my initial flight because I missed the window to choose the school.
Okay, I understand. And the documents look like, is it the same process with you just need your passport? Did you need a visa then? Did you need a visa to go to China?
So yes, because I was coming for studying, you have to do the process beforehand. So I think they give you like this JW form. It's like a form that the school sends to you, and then you put that with your application, because you'll have to get like I think it's a X visa, like a temporary visa basically. And so Bahamians are visa free, I think, for 30 days.
Okay.
Don't quote me, but yeah. I think it's like 30 days. And then once that time is finished, you have to make sure you renew your visa or you get on the proper residence visa. Or else you'll be fined. Like they fine you daily if your visa papers aren't in order.
Okay.
So,
and I know we have more about that in the
can't hear you, Deandra.
every traveler has their own rhythm, their own little rituals that bring them comfort or joy. What are some of the things you always do when you travel? Any routines, mindsets, habits? In my ebook, I call them travel moves. What do your travel moves look like? Because you've been to a lot of places. Do you find that you have a rhythm or like a pattern that you do in every one of those countries? Any patterns that you follow?
But first thing, usually when I travel, I pray. I'd be like, Lord, just take control of this plane, to just order everything, because especially when traveling in Asian countries, you have to be vigilant. It's very, very safe, which is what I love. But like when you go to other East Asian countries, you just have to be very vigilant, because things can happen. We island people.
Island people.
We always on the lookout, like what's happening. So for me, before I go, I like to plan at least 2 to 3 very luxurious things. Very like a luxurious stay. Like at a quaint hotel or something like that. And I like to look for hidden gems. So the off the beaten path. Yeah, I would say definitely that's one of my preparations for a trip.
Things that aren't too touristy at times.
Right.
Want something more authentic.
Listen, when you're in Asia, you really realize the population is populating. So you have to really make sure like you plan to go at the right time, or stay away from those very densely populated places.
Yes. And so I was on your YouTube, like I said, I would have had all of that fancy stuff up. So if you could just share with the guests your YouTube, when you get a minute, if you could just put it inside of the chat so they could see how funny your travel content, and that would be perfect. The one with the lion, I was cracking up today. when you were at the lion with you, and very, very funny. So you definitely want to follow her on Instagram and YouTube, guys. Now, let's talk a little bit about airlines. Is there a favorite airline? You've been to many countries. Is there, over time, have you fell in love with a airline or an airport? Your favorite airline or airport?
I would definitely say Emirates is luxury, chat.
Really?
Oh, it's luxury. Ooh. Especially, I find that, especially when you do longer flights, this is what I realized. Doing longer flights, you get better planes because the planes have to be bigger, I guess.
Okay.
So usually, I remember one time I went on this double-decker plane. Like it had stairs inside.
Yes.
I was like, what's happening? And of course, I was a student back then, so the first class, and I really wasn't, I wasn't within. I wasn't there
Yes,
yet.
yes.
But I did. I did, however, experience Emirates. Emirates is really, really nice. Favorite airport? I don't think I have one. I don't think I have one. Like nothing stood out to me. But travel notes, apparently Singapore has one of the best airports in the world.
Okay.
You may want to check that out because literally people apparently book for like long layovers to have just to go to the airport.
To enjoy Singapore's airport. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to ask questions, because sometimes airports are not, well, I know that airports are, I love to lay over in Heathrow in London because I like tea. And so whenever I see a flight and it says Heathrow, well, I like Toronto's airport as well. But I love the experience in Heathrow because I could always stock up on my teas. But now you're going to have me checking into Singapore. And to our guests that are in the chat, if you have a favorite airport, you could drop that in the chat as well, and we'll check in to see what are your favorites. So have you had a first class experience, Princia?
Not as yet.
Not as yet, but the Emirates, I saw on social media that they allow you to shower and all that kind of stuff. So that is also on my bucket list, to fly with Emirates. So shout out to Emirates. It seems like they are the leader in that they are definitely the leader in explored quite a few places, but if you had to live just one travel moment, what would it be? And what made it unforgettable?
Just one. Just one.
That's one.
Okay. I would say my honeymoon in South Africa. We stayed in Johannesburg on a reserve. And so we stayed in this, it's called a chalet. So it was like a hut, but like a glamping tent with a hut. We had like our own, they call it braai. Shout out to my South African baby. They have braai, or in Zimbabwe they call it goch.
Okay.
So they have like your own personal braai area. They had a hot tub. They had all of this beautiful, like it was just beautiful. And the top moment was, it was the night before we was about to leave, but the day before we was about to leave, and the elephants just walked past our chalet. Like a family of elephants. It was, and we was like, and literally my husband was like, we didn't see the elephants, we didn't see the, I say, listen to me. I declare, decree, these elephants will come. I say, watch it. And we stood outside and I was like, it's happening, it's happening.
It was
and
mystical.
Yes, they literally, and the lady who, like, I guess she's the manager of the resort. She was like, literally, they hadn't come in a while. So
wow. Oh wait, so this is the chateau. I'm not gonna butcher that word. Can you tell me again what is the name of it?
Chalet. They call it a chalet.
So it was literally in the wild. So they were just like, is it like a reserve?
Yes, it's a reserve. It's called, I think it's Dino King Reserve.
Okay. And so that was impromptu. It wasn't planned or anything. They just walked by.
Yeah. Now, of course, I think like they probably is like put little stuff there, because elephants are super smart. So they probably, we can't feed them. Like I wouldn't go up to an elephant and be like, oh, let me feed an elephant, because it's in the wild. But I think that they have, just to make the experience more memorable, but also like the reserve is like hectares of land. So we only in one part of it. So there's so much free reign for them to roam around. So it was just like amazing that they came.
That is a wonderful experience. We enjoyed something similar in Thailand. So I definitely understand what you mean when you say they're so mystical. You just have to love an elephant. Some people are like, you have to be insane to want to be with wild animals, but it's something that you can't describe. Just interacting with nature and just being there. You just have to be there. So that is an awesome experience. And that was in South Africa, you said?
Yeah.
South Africa. Right. Okay. And so that paints such a beautiful picture. And now we want to get into the meat of what we're here for. Life in China. Life as a Black Bahamian woman in China. We want, and everybody is dying to know, what does that look like? Okay. So let's shift to life abroad. Living in China is a bold move, and I can only imagine it came with a very bold culture shock. Like I said in my intro, I was there with some Bahamians in 2019. I've been there 3 times to Guangzhou. But I want you to share, what is it like navigating life as a Black foreign woman in China? What is it like? Are you stared at? Are you respected? Do people assume that you're American? Tell us what life is like.
So I've been here for a while, since 2015. What I'd say is I've seen the evolution of interactions with foreigners, as well as just seeing, pictures of Black people just in malls, like as advertisements. 2015, I never saw that. Today, I do. So moving around China, I used to live in Shanghai, definitely more developed city. You have a very big expat pool. So you see all sorts of different types of people, but China is also so very big. So I lived in, I guess, I wouldn't say rural. No, it's not, rural is not the right word. Just a less developed part or district of Shanghai. And so moving from where I used to live to the city was completely different. So where I lived, literally I had an experience where an older lady was on the escalator, and literally she was staring at me. So she fell down the escalator on her flat on her back because she was staring at me. And it was like a whole thing because mom fall down because she was staring at me. So I think you never really get used to the stares. True.
Yes.
You have little children who laugh at you. When they see you, people snicker all the time. People ask you
For a
like,
second.
are you
Okay.
African? They always ask you if you're African. Never American. Always African. But you do have, it's like a curiosity thing. However, I also believe in holding people accountable. Like Chinese people love Michael Jackson. Chinese people love Kobe Bryant, God rest the dead. Love, when I tell you love them, like ball cry. So if you idolize these people, when you see me in real life, make it make sense. It don't make sense to them,
Yes.
Yes, they could be intrigued, but like to be outrightly like, oh my gosh, like what are you? It's a deep curiosity. However, what I will say is the good outweighs the bad. The good outweighs the bad for sure. Because when it comes to living life in China, the convenience of everything, literally, like your phone is everything. Literally,
Your companion.
you can pay for everything. Everything is connected to your phone. Like the convenience of the lifestyle is literally insane,
Yes.
And it's such a big place. You get to move whenever, however you want to. You take a train to one province, the next province. And so living in Shanghai has also been interesting because I've met like my sister circle. I've met some of the best friends, all from all over the world in Shanghai. Now I moved to Wenzhou. It's called Wenzhou. It's a much smaller province in terms of being developed. And expat community is very small. Especially in my city. So literally, the only Black person I see is my husband. So literally, you don't get too much interaction with other Black people. But in terms of like the way they treat you, as I said, Chinese people are very curious.
Yeah.
So they'll just belt out, hello, hello, you know, some of them.
No, I went to say now I had posted something on social media after we took our trip to China. And there were a lot of comments. I talked about the curiosity in them wanting to touch your hair or to even interact with you. And someone commented, they said, Black people, stop using yourself as a petting zoo or something like that, reject them outright. So, I responded to the fact that you can decide if you want, to just reject that. You're human, if you get overwhelmed to reject it. But one of the things that she said was that they're mocking us. Said, isn't that they don't see Black people? She said that they see Black people all the time. They are wanting to take pictures with us and interact with us because they're mocking us. How do you feel about that?
I think it's definitely true. As I said, with the Kobe Bryant stuff, like, Black people, you see. Now, what I will say is, China's a big country and with a big population. So a lot of them haven't seen a Black person in like face to face before, right? And yes, when they take pictures of us, they put it on WeChat. WeChat is like WhatsApp. So they put it on WeChat and they laugh. I've seen what they call Black people monkeys, animals. So again, being here so long, you have to like be able to separate the two, right? You have to be able to. There are some people who are very ignorant because it is ignorance, you know. But I will say honestly, they look at even in their culture. This is the funny thing, guys. If you go to the southern part of China, you could literally see some Chinese people who like mango skin, like literally who look almost Black.
Really?
Yes. You see them, they are literally like very, very tanned, but in their culture, white is a symbol of beauty. White is a symbol of, so that's where that comes from. So they tend to really love the white people. They tend to love them because in their culture, white is seen as beautiful. Now, what I will say also, you have the young Chinese, they coming up. And yes, Shantae is very wild. White is luxury or classy. Yes, that's exactly. I was reading some of the comments in the chat. Yeah, and it's true. But what I will say is some of these young Chinese people, you also see a Chinese person with dreads.
Really?
Oh yes, it's a thing now. It's a thing now.
Are there any Blacks?
You have Blasians, right? So you again intercultural marriages and everything. So you have a lot more people are now marrying outside of their race and culture. So there are, Black men with Chinese women, Black women with Chinese men, and they have Blasians. Yeah, I guess we call them Blasians, Black Asians, Blasians.
Okay.
So, and they are beautiful, baby. They are beautiful. It's a beautiful mix. But honestly, I also think that people have to be honest and real. Like the reality is that, we do experience racism here, it's just the degree to which you experience it, right? Every country has its pros and cons. But for me, the first time I was called a nigger was in China.
Wow.
To my face, like in real time, in real life, that hasn't happened to me. But then again, I've been to America, it hasn't happened to me, but a lot of people have been to America and they've been called niggas and all this stuff, so these things, they happen, right? It was definitely a crazy experience. It's a crazy experience. But like I said, I had to really pray and ask God to help me with that, because I was like, I leave my country and we don't have that in
right, it's non-existent.
It's not a thing, you know. But then I also, so after that encounter, you know, another Chinese lady, she was like, no, like he's ignorant, you know, like
Okay.
something happened, you know.
Right.
I mean, she didn't interrupt, like she was there the whole time, but she didn't say anything.
Interrupt him calling you the N-word. That's crazy.
Right.
But what is so interesting is that in this part of the world, well, not all of us again, but Chinese are also, you know, they may experience racism as well. You know, they call them names as well. But I never knew that because I just never would think that they would call a Black person, you know, because they experience not being, you know, in the majority as well, you know. So that is an interesting perspective. And we only could hear that from someone who actually experienced it. And so,
and then again, to the end, I want to point out too, like, you know, again, that's also not everyone's experience,
okay,
right? You have some people who literally have such deep ties with Chinese people. You know,
yes,
it's your preference. And again, like what I realize is you also can't allow one situation to have
too.
all of the good, you know. Because literally you could go into a store and you trying to figure out something, and then you would have this Chinese person taking out the most time struggling with their little English, you know,
Yeah,
and trying to
do
explain,
it.
you know.
Yeah.
And I've also had experience in the teaching realm. I'm seeing some of my peeps like talk about the children.
Oh, sorry, Princia. So there are persons talking in the chat. Barry, could you please read off what's going on in the chat so we could address some of
Yeah,
those
we are
things?
having fun in this chat, right? At this question, kids asking you if you have colored your skin.
Kids ask you if you color in, the little kids.
Touch on the when you're teaching the kids. Oh, they want to know more about when you're teaching the kids.
Okay.
And they want to have kids with curly hair. I mean, these are little comments from the discussion, but definitely they want you all to touch on your experience as teaching the kids and kids asking you if you have colored your skin.
So, Princia, what were you teaching? You talked about being employed as a teacher. What were you teaching?
So I taught English. It is very ironically one of the easiest jobs as a foreigner to get in China, especially if you come from an English speaking background, which is you know, when I came to China, I first heard about this native English speaking person. I was like, native English, what is that? But but of course, you know, it's a nuanced thing because they'd be like, oh, you're from the Bahamas, what country is that? And I'm just like, Bahamas, child, you know. And then they ask, oh, do you speak English? We don't speak any other language, friend, just English, you know.
English,
it's that thing. But I taught babies. I taught grade 6, grade 7, grade 8, grade 9, also at a college. So I've had a vast experience of teaching, you know. And yes, I've had little babies come up to me and they rub my skin and they
really?
and yes,
That is so cute.
I was like, the best. What's wrong with you? I was like,
Someone
what's
is
wrong with
also
you?
asking, how after all of your years in China, they want to know if you guys speak the language.
Mandarin.
I can definitely handle myself. And honestly, I've learned from the babies. So the babies actually, I pick up some words from them as well. I studied for like a semester, but our teacher, she used to like to have fun. She was young and she used to want to go out with us. So it wasn't really, it wasn't really like very fruitful. But you know, living here so long, you get to, you know, interact with people, you know, just ask them, you know, what is this word? What is this word? And so that's how I kind of picked it up. But child, the babies is something else. The babies, they would literally be like, oh, so you eat chocolate, that's how your skin gets dark.
Very curious. But then, Princia, it goes to show as well that sometimes when persons are interacting, even when you're in China, for our guests watching, our audience, that, sometimes they really just don't know. They're very curious as to, this is a person of color. How did this happen? Do you think that's what it is in a lot of cases? I know they say they mock us, but it is really curious if you've never interacted, especially up close with someone before. You're very curious as to, I guess, what should be biology. Do they not have that kind of knowledge there?
Well, Deandra, I think about it like this. We in 2025.
25.
We in 2025. So you really think all the people in the world have yellow skin? No, you have some that have black skin, some that have white skin. Yeah. And this is something that I really make it a point because, a lot of people like to say, oh, you go the diplomatic way, right? You can, honesty without kindness is cruelty, yes. Right? But at the same time, if you rob someone of honesty, you rob them of knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, what I tend to do is, I'm like, there's no reason for you to be so overly curious, they're very, Chinese people are very so when they're in kindergarten, they have more personality, right? So they're very curious, they talk to you, whatever. Cool. When they get in middle school, they get very, very introverted, extremely, because there's so much pressure. Guys, you haven't seen pressure until you've seen a Chinese student starting from grade 7. Like they have a lot of homework, they're overwhelmed, they're overworked, and they put so much pressure on themselves. And so when a lot of times when they're in that type of environment, they don't get to see other things. And then, a lot of things are blocked in China. But in however, as I said, we're in
2025. And so with that being said, in 2025, how does grocery shopping look? How does housing look in China? In terms of cost, work, and transportation. How does that differ from the Bahamas?
So when it comes to apartment, right? So apartments here are very interesting, and of course it varies from province to province because China is a big place, right? So for example, Shanghai rent is super expensive because there's a real estate bubble going on there. So also, if you choose to stay in the city, the rent would go up. So you have it varies. So me and my best friend, she's from South Africa, she's in the chatting it up. Yeah. So we live together, and we for a time when we first doing our master's degree, doing our PhD degree, when we started our PhDs. So we had lived together, but we lived in the outskirts. That was pretty cheap. I think we paid maybe 4,000 kwai. 4,000 kwai is how much? Can someone help me with 4,000 kwai?
It's divided by 6.75. Is that the exchange rate?
No, now it's 7.
7, so that makes it better?
It makes it worse for me. Because we earn, and that's another thing I think we should also talk about. So it's about $558, $560.
$560. Okay.
$560 a month, right?
For rent. Is it
for rent?
Is the accommodation really nice, or is it basic?
So again, this is something that we have to adjust to from now moving from China, because apartments come fully furnished, very modern, very nice. You live in so most of the apartments are those really tall buildings.
Yes.
Really, really tall buildings. So you rent your apartment for So it depends. So for in Shanghai, you could have chosen to pay for your rent for first month's rent, security deposit, right? And you can choose to pay either monthly or every 3 months. If you pay for it every 3 months, it will be a little bit cheaper.
Okay.
Now, moving to Wenzhou, completely different thing. We had to pay for our rent 1 year, like 1 year, like 12 months, like 1 year.
The full year in advance?
We had to pay rent for 1 year.
In advance?
In advance, yeah. Yeah,
And
I never heard of it either.
This is in the new province that you're in.
Yeah, so this is in Wenzhou.
And that's the norm. Guangzhou, not Guangzhou. Guangzhou.
Not Guangzhou, not Guangzhou, it's Wenzhou.
Okay. Which is more country.
Yeah, it's less developed. It's less developed. But of course, the rent is cheaper. So, my apartment that I live in now is way bigger than the apartment that I lived in Shanghai, but I pay less. So I had a 1-bedroom apartment in Shanghai. I have a 2-bedroom apartment here with an office in Wenzhou, and I pay less than I paid in Shanghai.
So you pay less than $560 for a 2-bedroom? USD.
So we pay about around that $560. We pay around that for a 2-bedroom and an office.
High rise. So what about utilities? Again, how do the utilities look in terms of cost?
So China is also very creative. So, for example, the first apartment my husband lived in, so what they do is they have these big houses, right? And they separate them into, so like you have one house and then you have like 3 units in that house. Okay. So I think what happens is when they calculate their electricity bill, it would be higher, even though the apartment space is smaller.
Okay.
Now when we live here, it's cheaper. It's cheaper. Okay. Even though we're in a whole apartment by ourselves, it's just the way they calculate it, because they calculate it kind of like a business, but the ones where they kind of chop it up. And so utilities are pretty cheap. So like water, they charge every 3 months. So you could pay anywhere from like $30, $40 for like 2 months.
And then what about transportation? I think one of the craziest experiences, or I should say the most near-death experience that I would have had was watching the driving in China. So you drive there.
No, ma'am. You
also agree that I could never understand. It's almost like everybody wants to, I don't know how they don't hit each other's cars, but they are very skilled in driving.
Yeah. I don't know. They drive really, it's like, it's a rush culture here. So it's like, you have to like go.
Yes.
So that's pretty much how it is. But I would say,
do you guys tuk-tuks as transportation? The little cars with the umbrellas?
The tuk-tuks, they used to be cute when you first come, but after you live here for a while,
you're like, no. So that's a tourist thing.
For some people, it's more convenient, but it's more convenient to just hop on the metro or, take a DD. For example, again, for my people in China, my province, y'all, we pay about, to move around. My husband, he pays about 9 kwai to get to work. That's like about $1 something.
Okay. The metro system is very good in China. It's very proficient and on time. And
yes, for sure. So Uber, the Chinese Uber is called DD, right? So he just takes the car to work, $1. For example, in Shanghai, the metro system is so expansive. It's
Okay.
like huge, you know. But here, the metro system, we only have one line.
Okay.
So they literally just finished building it. So
Okay.
we don't usually use the metro here. We just take a DD. But the transportation system, the buses come on time. You get a DD or you take a thing. And also, if you want to go from province to province, you just go on the bullet train. And so you can go from province
So
to
you
province.
don't have to be able to drive in China. That's something that we Bahamians would be curious about. How do you get around? And then the biggest question of all, how do you navigate between the language barrier? I think that's the question that everyone wants to know. You said that you know enough Mandarin to get by. But for 7 years, you've been in China. I know it's one of the hardest languages to learn in the world. So, how do you live in China for 7 years and you're able to, live and be without knowing the language? How do you get over what are some tips for getting over that language barrier?
So, I want to correct you that Chinese is not one of the hardest languages to learn in the world.
Really?
Definitely no. Like spoken Chinese, it's not.
Okay.
Written Chinese. Written Chinese.
Okay.
They call it Hanzi. Hanzi
Okay.
is the crazy one.
Okay.
I think German is like one of the hardest ones.
Okay.
It's super complicated. But Chinese is easy to learn because, one, they don't speak in complete sentences. Two,
Okay.
Again, technology. So for some things, like if you come to China, you just make sure you have your translation app. You can just translate. And also, get navigating the Chinese characters. My good friend here, she reads Chinese well.
Is that your best? You said your best friend? Is she in South Africa?
She's in China, but she's from South Africa. And my other girl, she's from Zimbabwe. She's also in China. So you can actually just translate also on WeChat, which is like the WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Alipay, you can just translate it. So it's super easy now. And then on the app, so you buy things, you can just translate it now. Before time, you couldn't. So what I would say is, like, for example, banking.
Right.
Let's talk
about banking.
Is one of the most hectic experiences.
Really?
One of the most hectic experiences. But
again, or is it foreigner or just on the whole? Because when you go there, you just see everybody taking their phone and like just going ding, 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 and they're paying like that.
So once you set up, you good. Like, honestly, like, China has spoiled me so much because the technology is crazy.
So it's literally a cashless
when
society.
When you go in the bank to get anything done, to open up that account.
Okay.
It's a long process. And then usually, that's where the language barrier really comes in. So I would say, like, language barrier comes in not in everyday language, but in specific areas or specific fields. So, obviously I won't know banking Chinese. I won't know. So certain areas, it's just like how you have rudimentary English skills, right? You can speak very, very, very basic Chinese, and that can get you around. And as you grow, you learn to, communicate more.
Okay. And so is that, do Chinese have a difficulty getting the banking system sorted out? Is that frustrating for them as well? Or is it just for foreigners?
I can't speak for the Chinese people, China. I can speak for that.
Do you have any friends?
Y'all.
Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay. What we really want to know in this segment, we want to talk a little bit about love and lifestyle abroad. So let's talk about something sweet. You met your husband while living abroad, and that is a beautiful thing. I know there are a lot of ladies on that may be thinking, like, maybe my husband isn't here. Maybe my husband is in China. So tell us a little bit about how that unfolded.
And he can live long too. He's literally just going to work.
Uh-huh.
He can live long. So I met my husband actually while I was in Malaysia. So he was in China. He lived in Wuhan, like the epicenter of COVID. So he was stuck in Wuhan. I was stuck in Malaysia with my best friend. And she was talking to someone and she was like, oh, I have a friend, y'all can talk together. So we started talking then. Imagine, so he was in China for like 2018, but we never met. So we started just, talking. Then I had to go home after 6 months. And we just continued talking. So it was just, I don't know, it was like we kind of leaned on each other during COVID because it was such a turbulent time for both of us. Like he used to tell me, he was like, child, we talked about if we're gonna survive. He was like, we used to talk about, but you think we really could get out of this? Because they were seeing people was dying every day because they were in the epicenter of COVID, And I had me and my girl, we had our own issues with, being locked outside, not knowing what was gonna happen. We left our apartment, everything. We stayed in our apartment about 1 month before we left, and then we just never came back. Our degrees, everything was there. And we just were able to support each other during that time. And I think it was fun because I actually didn't know many Zimbabweans. So when I saw him and when I was like, oh, okay, this is Zimbabweans, like, okay, interesting, different. And when we was talking, we just didn't stop. We talked for hours and hours and hours. And it was just so funny because we didn't know if we were gonna ever meet each other because I couldn't get back to China during COVID. And then we met, and contrary to what people may think, it was super awkward. It was super awkward. I was like, oh my goodness, you sound like I don't know, you sound like one of them old uncles on TV. He was like, you sound like a 12-year-old girl. What's happening?
So that was just having that exchange during COVID. So you actually found love during COVID.
I did, y'all. I am one of those.
That is amazing. And so when you made the decision to get married, so he was in Malaysia at the time. So
I was in Malaysia at the time.
You were in Malaysia.
He was
He
in
was in
China.
Yes. And so when a Bahamian and a Zimbabwean comes together in China, what does that union look like? What does it look like to marry in a place where you both are not native to that land? What are the customs like?
So firstly, I don't know if people know. People probably don't know because I didn't know. Foreigners can get legally married in China. So we actually went the Zoom route. So we got married technically in the state of Utah. We registered the marriage, got it apostilled, everything that was needed for China. And then, so yeah, foreigners can't get married in China.
Foreigners cannot find out.
But apparently Utah, they created this this route to kind of accommodate people who weren't able to come together during COVID. So we were able to go that route. And then we also just recently found out that if, as a married couple, as a Bahamian woman, if we have a child in China, we won't be able to give that child a Bahamian passport. They would have to have a Zimbabwean passport. Because by law, Bahamian women, so
no, I don't know what. So talk a little bit more about that, Princia. So if you have a child, if you and your husband, he's Zimbabwean, and you're Bahamian. If you have a child in China, the child cannot be Chinese.
Oh no. Oh, Chinese wasn't even on the table. They don't have a birthright law here. No.
Okay, so there's
there's
no birthright law in China, and so, but by our law, our Bahamian law, the child cannot have your passport because
right.
and that's what they were trying to do with the bill the other day when they were trying to give both women, Bahamian women and men, equal rights. I understand, and so this is. Yes. Sanse said when everyone voted no. And so this is a prime example of, things that if it doesn't affect you, you wouldn't know about it. And so this brings awareness to that because that if a man has the ability, if your husband was Bahamian though, then he would have that then your children would have that privilege, right?
Right. So, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And then again, as a married woman, if I was single and I have a child with him, that's another thing I actually have to confirm, like if you're a single Bahamian woman, right, and you have a child with someone of a different nationality, can you then choose to have the child a Bahamian, or do they still have to take their father's nationality? That's something that I have a friend here who works at the embassy, so I can actually ask her because she was actually helping me, again, if as a Bahamian woman, me and him are married, he does not get I cannot just give him a Bahamian passport.
Your husband, that is.
My husband, yeah. I'm like, no, it doesn't work. It definitely doesn't work like that. But you have to go, you have to go through a process. So now you have to show that you were married for 5 years. You have to live in the Bahamas for 2 years. And I can apply for a spousal work permit for him. Now, don't quote me on that's going to.
Yes, but it's funny that you say this, Princia, because we as Bahamians, we live in the Bahamas. We probably know about, we know about our customs and our laws here, but now hearing you speak, it's like, like this is real life. This is something that is actually happening in practice. So in the chat, your bestie and those that have they're just supporting you, saying you and your husband are the best couple ever. They love you guys. Best and favorite couple. Twainell is saying the child will be Bahamian. Ashante said when everyone voted no. Princess is saying, I think it depends where the child is born. Deandra Hepburn is saying, yes, from social studies, it says if you're single, the child is automatically Bahamian. So that means if Princia wasn't married and she has a child in China, then the child would automatically be Bahamian. But once she's married, the rules are different. Our laws are something else. Yeah. So,
and it's interesting because being in a multicultural society, you hear about people who, an American and a Cameroonian, they have a child. They chose to give the child the American passport. But again, you have to go ahead and do your own due diligence. This is something that China taught me, like every country is different and every country's laws are different. However, when it comes to us having children, and it's so timely to have this conversation because I would definitely, urge people, especially when you go to marry someone from a different culture, be knowledgeable, not as a deterrent, right? Obviously, right? But to just know and be prepared, because when it comes to traveling, right? Different countries' passports are able to take them different places, which is what this conversation is about.
Yes.
A lot of factors were not considered, I didn't know that. I didn't realize, I guess, because the Bahamian passport is so strong, I didn't realize how difficult it is for a lot of other countries, other country people to travel. It is literally a process for visas. Whereas we can just get an ETA, they may have to get a whole visa process. And so it really put a lot of things into perspective for me, because, now that I am, this is my person, this is my husband,
Yeah.
at the same time, now we have to kind of really plan certain things before we do it, because our passports aren't the same.
That is powerful, Princia. And I think that is a wealth of knowledge for persons, because a lot of persons would find themselves in the predicament and wouldn't know how to navigate it, because you taught me something. I'm thinking, like in the United States, if you go to the United States and you have a baby there, then your baby is American. And I think the same.
Not anymore.
Oh, they changed.
I think Trump is trying to change it. He's trying to change the birthright law. Canada's a good one. If your child is born in Canada, they're Canadian. But I think they're trying to amend the birthright law in America.
Oh, wow. But definitely for the Haitians here in the Bahamas, once you're born here, when you reach a certain age, I think you're able to apply for citizenship, correct?
Mm-hmm. Once you're born in the Bahamas after 1973.
Exactly. So it's amazing how the customs and all of the laws and stuff like that are different in every country. Now,
yeah.
Let's check in with the chat. Charlene, what's happening in the chat?
Okay, let me get my age.
Okay, the chat is saying, Princess, we are a Christian nation. Danielle, the politicians wanted to change it, but we said no. Princess also went on to say, because they took it from the wife to the husband standpoint instead of mother to the child. And Dr. Stubbs is saying Trump ain't into that. So they're just having a conversation, a fun conversation going on in the chat.
Awesome. And the thing about conversations that is so powerful is that we educate each other through knowledge. And that's one of the reasons why I really wanted to create Travel Talk, because I feel like we don't get the opportunity as Bahamians, especially, to pour knowledge into each other. We travel a lot. Bahamians travel, and now more than ever, you see Bahamians now moving away from the familiar. And I'm so happy to see that, because, life is bigger than the familiar, just going over and having our shopping trips over to our neighbors. And so I think that these conversations is so important, because now we can make reference to the fact that, okay, Princia said, if I go to China, I don't have to necessarily know Cantonese or know Mandarin or anything like that. I just need to have the tools to be able to do so. And I talk a lot about that in my ebook, Passport to More, where I give that information in terms of exchanges. Like just a while ago, she was calculating what was the exchange rate, to change the USD over to the Chinese money, which they would call yen, or I know Guangzhou, it's renminbi. I don't know if it's different where Princia those are. But those conversations and having those tools.
It's called renminbi, RMB, yuan, or yen. Yen is Japanese, but it's yuan.
Yuan, Y-U-A-N, yes. And that's the thing, travel teaches all of those things. So this is just a wealth of knowledge that you're giving us, Princia. And I want us to just take a little turn here. And I want you to tell us your story about how you got locked out of China during the pandemic and you couldn't get back in. I know it may be one of the things that you don't want to remember, but I think it brings a lot to a perspective to the conversation, because a lot of times I think people think, traveling as a tourist is completely different from living somewhere. And also during the pandemic, it just shows how things can happen. I don't know if that's something that could have been prevented, but I think it's still important for the conversation for our fellow Bahamians and our international guests watching, that they could benefit from that story.
For sure. And my locked out buddy is also on the call.
Yes.
So what happened was, COVID was getting crazy. My mom, my sister, they're also on the call, and they were like, and my dad is also on the call. So, they were calling me like, "What you could do? You need to get out. You come home, come home, come home." I'm like, "Woo, chill." So literally, when COVID started, like, it was the whole grocery shopping thing. That was a thing. We literally stocked up on everything, right? So
Right.
we were like, okay, cool, like this is gonna pass. This is gonna pass, like it'll be okay. We're gonna lock up in our thingum and lock up in our apartment, and it's gonna be okay. Cool. Then things really started escalating. So we were like, okay, you know what? Let's get out. Let's go on vacation. So of course, two Black women want to be fabulous. We fill up our suitcase. We're like, okay, we can take pictures. We're gonna go on a little holiday. So we were thinking, okay, it's
When she can lock out. Lock out the wall.
oh, Shanta, you could oh, thank you. So we were thinking, oh, it's gonna be, it's just gonna be a little trip. Turns out, when we went to the airport, we saw literally all of the flights were canceled. All we were seeing, cancel, 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 cancel. So we actually started to get really worried. So we initially wanted to go to the Maldives, then we changed to Bali, and they had canceled our flight. I think they canceled our flight to Bali. And so we decided to, right in the airport, we were like, okay, let's purchase a ticket to Malaysia. Got on the plane. We looking around to see where the other people. The crew was like, it's just y'all two on the plane.
And this was March of 2020. So this was just when the pandemic was starting, or was this before that? Because China experienced the pandemic a little before us. Yes.
This would have been February 2020.
Okay.
Because funny enough, we actually visited Wuhan in January. And funny enough, I didn't see my husband to be. I didn't see him, but it was a whole thing that we actually, because everything is tied to your passport, so they can actually track you to know your movements. So they actually told us we had to go to the hospital, all these things before we left. Okay. One of the reasons why we chose to leave. Went to got on the plane, noticed it was only us two, and we were like, really, what is happening? And I was like, girl, I don't even want to go on Malaysian Airlines because the plane went missing. I was like, Lord, Lord, what's happening? I said, they can't take, it's only a couple of us Bahamians in the world. I said, Lord, they can't lose me in this, Okay.
Yes.
So we went to Malaysia. We ended up staying in a hotel, lived in a hotel for about 2 weeks, went to Bali, didn't really like the vibe, came back to Malaysia, and then boom, we saw a lot more Chinese people coming in, So that kind of got us a bit wary,
They were coming into Malaysia.
Okay. So we decided to go to an island in Malaysia.
Okay. Okay.
So it was beautiful. It was nice. Again, stayed in a hotel. We were blessed that we still were working online. So we had jobs.
Okay.
So it looked really fabulous. It felt very fabulous for a while. We were just living in hotels. Imagine living in a hotel. Just doing what we do. Just having fun. And so literally we came back from Bali, went to Langkawi. Then we get a message from our school telling us that, oh, the borders are closing.
Wow.
And everyone who's outside can't go back. I think it was like you would have had to come back within a day. And so we were.
How far is Malaysia from where you guys were in Shanghai?
I want to say 4 hours.
4 hours. So you would have had to left. You would have had to leave that day, and you didn't. So you got locked out of China for how long?
for 2 years and 6 months.
You were locked out of China for 2 years and 6 months. You could not go back. So what happened to you guys' degrees and everything that you were pursuing?
So bear in mind, we had just graduated with our master's degrees. So like our actual physical degree was still in China. We just got a new apartment, all of our clothes, everything was in China. So we coordinated with one of our friends to just pick up our stuff. We were paying bills for like a month, and then we were like, this doesn't even make no sense. So we had to, coordinate with someone to come and pack up all of our stuff, like a moving company to pack up all of our stuff.
Yeah.
Did that. And then with regards to our degree, everything was on pause. Like the world stopped.
Yes.
People understood our school, you're outside of China. They kind of gave us a break,
Right.
And then we were in Malaysia for about, I was there for like about 6 months.
So you go to Malaysia, you and your best friend, you're not married yet. You go to Malaysia, with the intention of being on vacation. And so you have to, that's almost semi-residence kind of thing. You end up living in Malaysia for 6 months, just went to go there on vacation. How did you guys survive? Like, did you have funds just designated? Is Malaysia super cheap where you could live in a hotel for 6 months and you were fine? How was that like? Who supported you guys? Or what, did you meet like lifelong friends? Like, what was that experience like to be locked out of where you're supposed to be and be in an entirely different country?
Child, the Lord is there. When it came to like daily life was good. Like I said, we had jobs online.
Yeah.
And before we came, we were also working. We were part-time lecturers at a college.
Okay.
So we were studying, but then we actually did it the right way as well. We got, a work study visa. So we were able to work while we studied and at the time we were doing our PhD. So we came, we went to Malaysia, went on the island, during that time, they hadn't like restricted movement as much as China.
Okay.
So you still, especially on the island, it was also different from the city, Kuala Lumpur. It was also different.
Okay.
So on the island, we kind of were able to move around, and then we were like one of the few Black people on the island. So they used to treat us really good. They treat us real good. We was
like in Malaysia. Was the treatment better in Malaysia than China?
Oh yes. They love this chocolate woman. They were like, ooh. And we just there, walking and listening to our music. We would have days where I'm like, okay, you could cry today and then I can cry tomorrow. Okay. You melt down, then she would be like, okay, you melt down. I got you. I call my parents. I and my sister and I just was crying, and I know I think at that time they was scared, because I don't do the whole crying thing.
Yeah.
So, they were like, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay.
Was the pandemic situation in Malaysia, was it deadly? Were persons, was it as bad as it was in China, or they had it underneath control?
I think everyone experienced the same thing, like where people were dying. Maybe the magnitude of it maybe wasn't as much.
Right.
We stayed away from the news, girl. We wasn't trying to watch the news and stuff like that, because it was scary, because again, we only had, I'm only visa free in Malaysia for what, I think 30 days. So imagine overstaying. I'm like, what is that gonna look like?
Did they give you grace, or were they, because it was a pandemic, they gave you grace? Okay.
Yeah. So when I left, they were a little, they were a little rough with some people, but of course, like, I didn't know I was gonna be here.
Yes. Right.
So it wasn't a problem. It was a pandemic,
Yeah.
like just doing regular things. The KFC was so good.
KFC is good in Malaysia, guys.
It's so good. I think it's the best in the world for me. Like, I don't know what they put in that, but it's good. So the lifestyle is also beach. They had beaches, so it kind of felt like home in a way because it's not as developed.
Okay.
But like it has some infrastructure and it also felt like a tourist destination.
Okay.
So, we were able to like go sit down by the beach, just relax. We also were able to get like really, really nice and cute Airbnbs for cheap because why? It was a pandemic and not a lot of people were on the island.
Yeah.
And then we met some other people from all over the world, like Egypt, and a lot of people were just like stuck
In Malaysia.
and they were on the same island as us.
Okay. So when you say island, is it like a paradise island or is it big enough to be like a New Providence or Andros, or how big is it? Is it a big island or was it a small one?
It's like a I think it's like a Nassau. I want to say Nassau.
Really? Oh wow. So literally an island.
Yeah, Malaysia have islands. I also didn't know. Don't mind me. I also didn't know.
Okay.
My friend, I didn't even know that they had islands. But it's like very mountainous, but it also has beach. Beautiful.
We were stuck in a beautiful place.
Yeah, we were stuck in a beautiful place, and we were always so grateful because we met some other people, and child, it was like how they had to live in hostels, and I think, child, imagine.
But you guys were working, and so you were also getting paid from the Chinese government whilst you were working, so you could sustain yourself pretty much.
We were working, yeah. So we worked with the company, and then we also had like a teaching gig. So they made sure that we were able to get our monies. And that was another thing. So Malaysia, you also asked the exchange rate. I think Malaysia money is double Chinese money.
Really?
So yeah, so it was like the cost was a little bit higher, but then it's still Asia, so it was expensive.
Okay.
They also had like similar apps that we could have used there as well. And then I had like some very trusted friends, before we left, when you go back home transferring money on WeChat and Alipay, we wasn't sure if we could have used it. So I was able to send me and my friend, we were able to send my friend basically all our money because we wasn't sure, how we was going to get it. You know what I mean? So it was a whole thing, actually. It was a different experience, I'd say that. It was a different type of experience. Oh, I think we lost her. Hey guys, I think we lost her. But yeah, I'll just share a little bit more. Again, like I said, we met people who may not have had jobs. They were staying in hostels. They were staying, in crazy situations. Living in Kuala Lumpur was also something different as well. It was scary. It was scary because we didn't know when we could go home. And at the time, I only had like one page left in my passport. So I was also nervous about not going home in time to get my passport or to have issues with my passport. So it was a very interesting time. I don't know if you guys would like to, ask questions, or we could kind of have an interactive period while we wait for Deandra to return.
Hi, Princia. Oh, because I had a question. Anyway, I'll save it for the end.
Okay. Deandra, your mic is mute.
Oh, sorry, guys.
Got
I
logged off.
It's okay.
So go
Okay.
ahead with your question, Lashante.
No, my question is very, I guess, lighthearted. I just wanted to know, I don't know if I missed it, about just being homesick. Like, do you experience that? How do you navigate that? Like, what is that like for you? And what do you do to get over it?
Thank you, Lashante. I find as I get older, I am a bit more homesick. I have my two little babies, my niece and my nephew, but I call them my babies. And watching them grow up and I'm not there, it's harder. It's way harder now. I just I talk to my family pretty frequently. I also listen to music sometimes, listen to some Bahamian music, acclimate the man with, the Bahamas and just talk about it. We talk about everything. So, just sometimes being able to vent about how I miss home and being able to vent about, just missing my family. I would say in terms of missing the Bahamas, it's funny, like when you start living abroad, because it's like when you come home, it doesn't really change much, but the vibe is there. And then I was also home for 2 years, prior to coming here, and it wasn't by choice. So it was an interesting time for me. So I think now my homesickness is more about like missing my family, and my parents are getting older, and just wanting to make sure that I'm also able to make sure my babies don't forget me. That it sounds so funny, but I'm just like, I don't want my babies to forget me, or just missing out on them growing up.
Awesome perspective, Princia. And the thing about it is, you only can get this perspective from 7 years you've been living in China. 7 years, right?
Yeah.
And
Seven,
so,
not consecutively, but
yeah.
yeah.
So
Mhm.
with your now there's another story that I want you to share, only because I think we need persons to understand how serious China is when it comes to enforcing their laws. You had mentioned that you were detained for some time in
Not me, child. Not Princia. No,
uh,
detained.
wait,
Not me, baby.
it was locked up.
I abide by the law. I respect the Chinese law. Me, I respect. Can y'all hear me? I respect the Chinese law, child. I respect the law of the land in which I live.
Apologies. That was the part when you were locked. That was the part when you were locked out of China. Got it. So we
Yes, please.
understand. Yes, that's it right there. So we understand that.
Well, actually, to point out, like, it's a great question, because the laws of China are actually very, very different. You have to be very careful, very
Yes.
prudent about what you say, for sure. Just be respectful, of course.
Yes.
So there's different platforms and stuff that you use.
Mhm.
I think I was watching one guy on YouTube. He had a YouTube channel, and he was a student, but he was working in China. And he was posting it on his YouTube, how he used to go to work in China. And baby, that is not tolerated. Like, if you go to school and you work,
You
if they catch you. I literally know like 3 people who were deported because they were working while
they were in school.
they were in school, or have a school visa, but then you work.
Working. And so to anyone that may go to study in China, because I know you said that a scholarship could be with the Ministry of Education in in conjunction with the
Chinese government.
Chinese government. If you're a Bahamian and you go on that scholarship, there's two different types of visa. You have ones where you can work and go to school. Do you have to apply for them separately?
No, there's no
There's no such thing.
as
You
working
either work in or you go into school. You cannot do both.
Right.
And
Right.
so if you're caught, they will deport you if you are studying in China, but then you decide that, and it's even worse because then you're documenting it and then saying you're going to work. Got it. And so I think that's a very important thing for our audience to know, because a lot of times I see another Bahamian on social media. She's studying in China, and you always, I think it's the question of how do you support yourself then if you go in a foreign country and like China and you cannot work. So how do you support yourself?
So you have some people, their parents support them. I think now they also have, I think like if you work online, like you do your own little private thing, you know, you do your Instagram management, you do whatever, it has nothing to do with you working in the
country. Okay, got it.
So you just, you know, the most important thing is abide by the law, child. Abide
by the laws in China, because it's very, very strict. And I don't think that persons understand that. When it's not as forgiving as it may be if you would go to like other countries. I think that's important to note. And you're there. So we know that we saw it, you know, on international news when the pandemic was happening, they had persons that were not, and they were mostly from the African, you know, Africans living in China. And what we saw in the media in the Bahamas was that they showed us where they weren't like adhering to the lockdowns and stuff like that. And they were detaining them. Like we saw where they were like just locking them up in the streets and just like, yeah, like you're not abiding, then, you know, you're going to be detained. That's what we saw in our media. I don't know if that was actually happening there. That was just what they highlighted to us, but that's what we saw. And that was the first time when I really saw like, okay, like this is really, really serious stuff. China was taking their protocols very, very serious during the pandemic.
But during the pandemic, I don't know. I'm not fully abreast of what happened.
Yeah, I guess you were.
I'm not fully abreast of what happened with that. But what I can speak to is just making sure that, you know, you don't step outside of the realm of one, sharing your opinions about the government on, you know, public platforms. That's not allowed. You know, that's the custom here, and you just respect it. That's just what you have to do.
Yes.
You know, talking about anything regarding politics, even regarding other countries and just stay away from it.
Just stay away from it. Because do you believe, because right, so we'll leave it there. So just keep out of it. Go and do what you're there to do and just stay out of it. Got it. Okay. And so what has been your biggest challenge and your greatest reward being in China?
I would say challenge is the whole skin color thing. Also, it's like, you know, people just being easily excitable over your presence. It's a lot, you know. After so many years, it gets really, really draining, to be honest, because, you know, it's just like if I see my niece or my nephew like pointing at someone and laughing at them, I would slap their little hand and I say, "Don't do that. What's wrong with you? I do not know. Rude." You know, like, you know, so that part of it is very, very challenging.
And the biggest reward has been
the lifestyle, child. The lifestyle is just rewarding. Like everything is so convenient. You just, and the safety. You can just do whatever you want to do, go wherever you want to go. If I want to go out at 3 a.m., child, and just walk up and down the road just to catch some air, I can. And don't feel no type of shit. You know, China is safe. It's very, very safe.
Very, very safe. Even as a Black Bahamian, you feel like 3 o'clock in the morning, no one is going to touch you. You could do what you pretty much please.
Yeah,
Do you?
for sure.
Okay. And then could you elaborate a little bit about what is fun like in China? If a Bahamian wants to come to China, how does it differ from the Bahamas in terms of, well, of course we know that it's different, but is there fun things to do that you would recommend? Well, I know every province is different, but I know you said you went to the Great Wall of China.
China
Not,
wasn't fun.
it
Hi.
wasn't fun. It was historic, but it
Hi.
wasn't. Yeah.
Of course, like the lifestyle in China is amazing. Like literally any and everything that you can think about, they have it. So you want to do like escape rooms, you want to do those aerial classes, you want to do you want to fly. I did that before. The gravity thing where the air just pushes you up and you fly. You know, they have Disneylands, they have numerous clubs, numerous bars, hidden bars. You know, it just depends on what you want to do. You just stay grounded. They have church, contrary to what people believe. They have churches here in China. You know, they have communities where they have family communities. They have all sorts of different communities. Expat community, usually, you know, in different provinces, they would form their own, you know, subgroups, and then you can meet different stuff. Literally, if you want to go to the mall and you feel like you want to play with a cat, like just a random cat, like they have literally stores where you can just go and just pet the cats and pet the dogs, and it's a thing.
And so Chinese friends, you said you don't, do you have, how easy is it to make a Chinese friend?
Very easy. It's just your tolerance level.
And they speak English? And they, okay. Sorry, go ahead, Princia.
No, some do. Me personally, you know, they're just very excitable. You know, they're very enthusiastic when it comes to meeting foreigners. Sometimes it's their first time talking to a foreigner. So, you know, some people enjoy it. You know, they're like, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful, you're so confident. And I'm like, oh, child, thank you, girl. Thank you. Share, girl. You know?
Okay. So it can become a little bit overwhelming because you just want to be friends and normal and on one level and not having to have the color situation. I get it. Because they are very excited, you know, even of the hair, and if you put in braids, forget it. It's a conversation for at least a week. Okay. And so how has life abroad shaped your view of the Bahamas and of yourself?
So I think God is definitely, you know, working on me. You know, just a lot of different experiences just recently, you know, being married now, wanting to start a family soon. You know, it puts a lot of things in perspective. Home will always be home. Definitely the Bahamas is paradise. It's a beautiful place. My thing is my apprehension with living in the Bahamas ever since I left home is literally the cost of living. The cost of living is pretty high when you don't have, you know, sufficient income or supplementary income. So I also, you know, want my husband to see the Bahamas, you know, so he can see like, oh, you know, is this a place that, you know, we could settle down in for a time? Because again, being in an intercultural marriage, you know, I think it's fair for both of us not to live in our home countries. I think it's just fair, you know. But my view of the Bahamas is that, you know, there's home is home, you know, home is home. And, you know, I want to see more advancements being made, especially like for Bahamians, you know what I mean? One thing that I did see that I was able to experience was NHI. You know, that was a great initiative. I mean, I was like, okay, Bahamas, go off. You know, it was nice. You know, so seeing those type of things happen over time is really great. But living in a country like China, it's like you're in a bubble. And you know it in real life. It's weird to say, like it's not real life because life is so easy. But I think, what I miss about home is community. Because here now, I'm currently a stay-at-home wife. Which I never saw myself being.
Yes. And you're glowing, by the way.
Thank you. And honestly, like I don't see people like physically every day. And I think it's odd,
Deandra said she loves that for you. Deandra Hebert said in the chat she loves that for you.
But it's also like very sobering because you know that you have to adapt to so much to the realities of life because living in China is really not real life. And being this much convenience and so it's like pros and cons, but at the same time it's like we ain't getting no younger. I'm 33 and proud, at the same time, that you have to put things in place to get life started, especially for your family. And as we talked about before, making sure that our children have the best passport that they could possibly have may mean moving, to another country. But you have to go to another country, but it may mean moving back home.
Yes. And so with that being said, do you think you will ever move back home?
Wait on the Lord.
So these are some questions people often think but don't ask. All right. So how do you even make money abroad? You went on to say that you could be a teacher. That's the easiest way to get a job in China. How are some other persons making money in China?
I don't know that people business.
And something in the chat said, being at home after that can be frustrating.
Oh yes. being home after having that amazing lifestyle could be frustrating. Yes, because if she's saying that China kind of makes you feel like the quality of life is just so good, and everything is so organized, then I can understand how moving home would definitely be an adjustment, even though it's home. I understand, Hepburn, as a person that works online, do I need a special visa to reside in China for more than 6 months? I think Princia.
I think you definitely do. China isn't one of those countries, but Miss Ernestine, there's so many other countries like Bali, they have that.
Thailand.
There's so many countries that have Thailand, so many countries that are more open to they call it the digital nomad visa workers on demand. There's many countries that would like people that are inviting people to come, especially remote workers, and you could work online for up to a year. China, however, I don't think it's one of those countries.
So, and Shanna Edgecombe is saying, I've experienced the frustration, LOL. And so basically, with, I guess, with you transitioning, if you ever do come home, you're in, I guess, is it fair to say utopia? It's just really, really a good quality of life. And then you have to come back home to, we're still progressing as a nation. We love our country. We love our country to death. But when you experience just certain cultures and just a system of how things are running, and then you have to adjust, you just realize how far we have before we get to that place where, we're kind of that society, And so another question was, okay, what kind of jobs are available to Bahamians in China? And of course, you already answered that with teaching. What advice would you give to someone wanting to study in China? They're fresh out of school and they're going into the world and they get an opportunity to go to China. What is your advice that you would give to them?
One word, go.
Just go. Do it. You would do it all over again.
Yeah, for sure, because I came here late in life. I came here at the age of 24, I had graduated with my bachelor's degree, and you know, I was living at home for a time. And honestly, I really wish I had done it before, because then you kind of get to see what type of life you want, you know, what type of lifestyle you want. Is living abroad for you? Is living abroad not for you? I would say China is a very interesting place, because either you love it or you hate it. There's really no in between, honestly. There's no in between. But I would definitely say, you know, being able to see different types of people and living in a multicultural society, it opens your mind in ways that you would never imagine. You have friends from so many different countries, and you build genuine bonds with people from all over the world. Like, I would have never thought, like, my husband would have been from Zimbabwe. Like, we would have never met him come to China, you know? So I definitely say for sure, exposure.
So just go for it. And then they would get adjusted to the lifestyle and they would love it. Okay. And then you already talked about sisterhood and community. You talked about the challenges. And how do you stay grounded in your Bahamian identity? Do you cook any Bahamian dishes?
Of course, child. I chefs it up. Child cooking runs in our family. Child, I be chefing it up. And contrary to what people think, like, you can get like a lot of different Western products very easily in China.
Okay.
But I would say, you know, through first and foremost my faith, you know, just knowing that God is in control it's a load off my mind, you know. Also staying connected to family, making sure, you know, you make the effort to talk to them on a consistent basis. And also forging a community. That is very important, because China is, you're far from home, you know, you need a community. And I would definitely say, you know, just in terms of like my identity as a Bahamian, when you come to a country like China and you see how many people actually speak their own language, for me, I was like, child, I gotta make sure my accent on point. Like, y'all didn't think I'm from no other country but the Bahamas, because you realize we don't have a language. So everybody's speaking their own little language, and you just there speaking all English. So, child, I say, like, child, if you can't understand me, we ain't got no language, so you're gonna be tough. You got to figure it out. Okay? Because you have to know that as a Bahamian. I know, like, some people just go off to school and they just lose their accent because they just be like, oh, you know, people can't understand them or whatever. That's for them. But for me, you can know as a Bahamian.
You can know as a Bahamian. Okay. And so your faith didn't shift. You know, you still, do you go to church? Is there a Christian community in China?
There's like lots of churches in China. However, you know, for me personally, I don't attend those churches because, you know, the Lord Jesus Christ, he died so that we don't have to go to a building, you know. And I think even living in a country like China, and it fortified my relationship, because it's like, relationship is not about going to church or going to a specific place. It's about making sure you make time, you know, to have a relationship, you know. And I feel like I've seen that so strongly, especially from living in China. And of course, I would say another piece of advice, especially if you send in, you know, your children off to school, China is a place where a lot of things are easily accessible, and you have to stay grounded, because you could really get swept up in the life, you know, like being able to go out and stay out till 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, you know, partying all day. The party lifestyle, especially in places like Shanghai, is insane. So you have to make sure that you are grounded, and you have to so child, just make sure if your niece and nephew, your cousin, whoever, current off, especially young, make sure that they have that foundation, because you could get lost so easily. It's crazy.
I see. These are awesome insights, Princia. And Cutel Gardner said, this is a really informative session. Ashante said, had to leave, guys. Excellent talk. So, with that being said, wrapping up our segment now, Princia, you've had a chance to interact with Passport to More, the ebook. And I'd just like to get your take on it. What were your first impressions of the book? And what would you say to someone who hasn't read it as yet, as a Bahamian?
I would say, like, I can't wait to read it for you, read it with you as well, because I've been trying for days and days and days to download this book, and my VPN is just wilding. Like, VPN in China is a thing, y'all. Like, being able to use these Western platforms, it's a thing.
It's a thing, and it's a thing that almost cost me, couldn't catch my flight to Thailand. So because of the VPN, you know, the visas, you need a visa. Bahamians need a visa for Thailand. And so what ended up happening was my husband and I were in the airport, and I had to go on my email to access mine. And so because I didn't have the VPN situation yet, I honestly could not access it, and I couldn't board my flight. Luckily, what I did was I think I sent it to him in WhatsApp or something, so we were able to get on. So I completely understand what you're saying when you can't access, and Cuba is the same way. You can't access. They have their communist. That's the word, right? Correct? Where you're not allowed to. They have their own system of things, and anything that is Western, they don't want in their society. And so things like Gmail and basically
Instagram,
everything.
social media,
Instagram, you know, all those
Yeah.
stuff are banned. And so I completely understand that. And I would like to say that when I visited, that was one of the biggest challenges, because it is literally like you're in your own world. And you don't realize that until you want to access things that are like habitual. And then you're like,
Yeah.
wait, why? Like, wait, why? That's how it was in Cuba. That's how it is in China. And I think they're the only two countries in the world that is like that, if I'm not mistaken. And so, Princia, that brings us to the final segment of our talk. Thank you so much for your openness tonight. You were so open and so free. I mean, and I'm just so grateful that we had that clarity where you were able to speak to us from the other side of the world. It's morning there, it's night in the Bahamas. So you've spoken with so much truth and grace. You know, to close us out, I would just love for you to give a final word. That's the final word you want to tell your Bahamian people.
Again, thank you, Deandra. Thank you for all of the amazing participants who tuned in for this, just a safe space to share my story. One thing that I would want to leave all of our guests is to always, firstly, if you're a Christian and you believe in God, put God first. Have your faith at the forefront of everything that you do, and God will breathe on it. And sometimes it's important to take a leap of faith, even when it comes to any sort of venture that you would want to experience, in order to get outside of your comfort zone and to really grow and flourish in a way that you've never seen before. You have to do something you've never done before. I just thought about that, y'all.
Yes.
But it's very important to, challenge yourself. And again, my life, listen, y'all, that's just the tip of the iceberg of all the craziness that be happening to me. And, honestly, living in China for this long time, it has just been such an amazing journey. Finding love unexpectedly, navigating an intercultural marriage. It is just interesting, to say the least. And, I'm just very grateful to share my story, and again, to help other people. So a lot of my social media posts moving forward, girl, it does sound like a movie. And my social media platform, but I really want to shape it into moving forward, of course, inspired by my good sis Deandra, is to educate people about things that, like normal things that has happened, and also encourage people to do research before you do things and make moves.
That is powerful. That was powerful. Thank you so much. I'll still love the link to your YouTube channel. So if you could just type that right in and also your Instagram, Princia. So that was powerful. Thank you so much. And if tonight stirred something in you, a memory, a dream, a fear you've been wrestling with, take a moment to write it down, guys. Take a moment to write it down. That is how movement begins. So we want to thank you to everyone who tuned in tonight. Thank you again to Princia for her courage, her light, and for showing us what it looks like to be Black, Bahamian, and bold in China. If this touched you, sorry guys, moving too fast. This episode is going to be shared on YouTube, and I would like you to tag a friend or to simply start dreaming again. And if you haven't already, grab your copy of Passport to More, a travel guide for Bahamians to travel beyond the familiar. Your next adventure might just be a decision away. I'm Deandra Dean, and this has been Travel Talk. See you next time. And remember, if life is truly what we make it, let it be grand. I'm going to put my Instagram in the chat and my YouTube as well, guys, which will be DTimeOfMyLife. Good night, everyone. And thank you again, Princia. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Good
Bye-bye,
night.
guys.
Good morning.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for watching this episode of Travel Talk. Be sure to catch the next episode. Click to subscribe and visit www.DTimeOfMyLife.com to explore travel gems and grab your Wander Notes journal for your next adventure.